It is Freddie Cruz, and I have made it my job to extract the stories of the individuals, the businesses, the organizations that make the greater Houston area great. His name is Mike Martin. He is an inventor. Check him out at CoolinCurve.com and at capitalismtocause.com. His story is nothing short of amazing. And during this episode, you're going to hear what it's like to live as an inventor, why you should view the world with your eyes out, and why everyone can be an inventor.
Hi, I'm Ed Sheeran.
This is Bruno Mars.
Hey, it's Katy Perry.
This is your man Flo Rida with Freddie Cruz.
This is AJ Mitchell with Freddie Cruz.
Freddie Cruz.
Freddie Cruz.
Tell your chico pick Mr. 305 and you already know what it is.
My name is Freddie, and it's time to cruise through HTX. Let's begin first with your path to becoming an inventor. This seems like something that maybe started when you were a little kid, or what got the wheels going?
I think positive reinforcement from my parents. I had very strict parents growing up, all about school, grades, discipline, which I wasn't too much of any of that. I think I was one of the founders of ADD or ADHD or whatever, but couldn't sit still in my chair for 5 minutes. And so school was always a battle for me, but I was always inventing at home. And when I wasn't getting in trouble for grades and misbehaving, I got a lot of positive encouragement from my parents that, well, one day you're going to be an inventor. And so now that I look back on it, I think that was the positiveness that turned me into an inventor. So I don't have any other reason why I could have turned into one anyway.
What was the invention that really did it for you as a kid? What did you make that gave you that boost of confidence? Like, you know what? I might be able to do this for my entire life.
When I was 18, I cleaning yards, doing yard work up in Nacogdoches, and I had a company called, well, my saying was anything that comes with fall leaves with us, right? And so I would just go do any kind of yard work for people. I mean, I tilled up yards. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was always a hard worker, so I could always figure it out. And so, but I cleaned a lot of gutters, and my first invention would be the gutter guard that keeps the leaves from going in the gutters. I didn't do anything with it because I didn't know how to proceed, but I was 16, I guess, 17. When we started doing the yard work, when I was 18, up in college is when I thought of that one, and now they're everywhere, which is about how long it takes to get a product to market. But no, I didn't have anything to do with that one, but that one was a good one that I've watched. Edge It with a Bag, that was a good one. I've always wanted, I just try to come up with things that help me do my job, because again, there's always a better way to accomplish a task, and I try to find the most productive and least strenuous as possible. So with customer service always in mind.
I'm a big believer that everything happens for a purpose, and we all belong in this current moment, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I wish the internet were a thing when you were a kid, because can you imagine if young 16, 17-year-old Mike Martin was on TikTok with his gutter guard or with his first inventions, and it's like some guy with some companies like, I need that kid on my team. Yeah. The path would have been a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. Boy, that's a double-edged sword there. The internet when I was that age, I grew up in a great neighborhood here in Houston, Southwest Houston, Sharpstown, Braeburn Valley is where I grew up. And again, it was just magical. And I'd like to say that childhood and my whole upbringing is why I'm here now and why I do what I do. Because again, I've been blessed at every turn. I've had a lot of bad things happen as well. I've seen a lot of death. But at the same time, it's all part of the ride. It's neither good or bad. It's just part of the journey. And I like paying it forward now just because I've had so many opportunities given to me. So, again, it's the least I can do is pay it forward. Plus, I get to do what I love to do. So, because inventing is fun. And like you said, we are all inventors as we're all creators. God himself is the main creator. He creates stuff that we can't even come close to, but we do a pretty incredible job inventing. And so I like to think that we're all artists in some form or fashion. So.
Yeah, and we met a couple of weeks back through one of my podcast production clients, Dorothy Gibbons at the Rose Breast Center of Excellence, and you had mentioned something about why everyone can be an inventor, and it really got the wheels going. I've been thinking about that ever since, because when you think of inventor, you think of the Coolin Curve, which is the wine bucket that you have that I want to talk about. You have the the weighted scrub brush. And so these are things the tangible things that you created with your mind and your hands. And so when somebody sees an invention, they're like, well, I can't do that. But you think, no, you're wrong, because you can. So why is it that everybody, even someone that did not very good in school like me, can be an inventor, be a creator of sorts?
Well, it's because the only way to get it done is to get it done, and we can all do. The hardest thing that I learned, I guess, was I didn't believe that I could do it, and so I kept asking everybody to help me, and no one would help. And so if you want to get it done, you have to do it yourself. And so once you start doing it yourself, you start getting the confidence that you can go to the next level, and so it just starts to build on itself. So I would say the biggest thing that stops everybody from inventing is fear that I can't do it. And if you just get that past you and just say, all right, well, I'm just going to go do it. Let me just go build a prototype. Oh, I don't know how to make one. Well, just make it. Make it out of paper. Make it out of cardboard. Make it out of anything. But make something, because when you do that, you made something. And that's a start. And that's how you do it. It's one foot in front of the other at all times. And when you do that, you end up somewhere. And again, it's not about the journey. I said that earlier. It's all about the path that you go. It's not that the destination is what I meant to say, but it's all about the path, because it's a riot. I mean, it's an absolute riot. When you get people, I had an owner-operator of McDonald's, I don't know, 7 years into working with McDonald's on this weighted scrub brush, and finally got to some insurance side of it, because we reduced slip and falls from dirty floors. And this guy called up from Arkansas, Herb Hutchinson, and he asked me to come up. He said, I'm going to test your product. Everybody wanted to test a product. Didn't matter how many McDonald's I was in. I was in 2,500 McDonald's. Well, I need to test it. Never quite understood why we're still testing a product that works, but that was just one of my hurdles I had to go through. So, but anyway, he had me come up, and he says, come up to cross it. And when you get there, I won't be there. I'll be coming in from out of town, but I'll be there either late night or tomorrow. The key's underneath the mat. And an owner-operator of 8 stores left me the key to his house and told me to come in and make myself at home, and he had never met me before. That was one of the biggest moments in my life. I could not believe that someone would do that. And that's kind of where it all started. I was well into knowing that I wanted to market through goodwill and do a lot of good with my products. I knew that, but when people started doing that for me, then it just solidified that I was on the right path and we're going to make a difference.
Something that you talked about before we began recording the episode was viewing the world with your eyes out. And I love that. You've got a coffee mug, fully functional, of course. I would expect nothing less from an inventor, but it's a fully functional coffee mug. Hashtag they run in, but you talk about viewing the world with your eyes out versus viewing the world with your eyes in. So can you expand on that?
Yeah, I'm an addict. Have been as long as I can remember. And about in 2017, I was really having some struggles. I was working at Gary Furniture. Very high stress. I had just sold my heavyweight scrub brush company because my doctor said that I need to quit or I'm going to have a heart attack. So I had a stent put in, and they told me to back off. And again, I had been fighting the heavyweight for about 20 years. And I don't say fight, but it was a challenge because I'm fighting, $15 billion a year companies, and I'm going in there and saying you don't need them. And so there was a lot of resistance on that. Get it one day, and it's still coming. I'm still building heavyweights 27 years in. So, but the eyes out, I was actually in rehab, and my counselor, who was our third patient or client or whatever they're called, but she came up to me and she said, Mike, when your eyes are out, you're helping others. When your eyes are in, you're focusing on yourself. And that just made a lot of sense to me. And since then, I've kind of adjusted a little bit because when your eyes are in, you're watching your movie. And when your eyes are out, you're watching God's movie. And the fun is in God's movie because I know my movie is nothing but nonsense. So I'd much rather watch his movie because, like I said, my movie, oh my God, he's a crazy person inside there. So, but anyway, when my eyes are out, that calms everything down, slows everything down, and really helps me. So eyes out is probably one of the best lines I've ever heard. And yeah, heard that in rehab.
Something else that I want to talk to you about, and you did touch on this a little bit, is that you want to use all of what you're doing in life to pay it forward. And something that you do with the Rose and numerous other charities is this Yacht Club program that you do. And it was all started because of this beautiful little girl that I met when I met you, and her name is Emma. She is your granddaughter. So can we talk about Emma and genesis of the story and what you're doing to help children with cancer?
Yeah, I mean, it's God has a plan, and I'm just finding my way in His plan because, again, you got to watch for it. And when I went into rehab, and I've almost found that when you give in to your higher power, you give in to, and it's not give in, but it's just reach out for help. When you're doing it with a pure heart, it's almost like they give you opportunities, right? It's like, all right, well done. Here's one to keep your mind on. So I don't know if that's true, but it's happened to me twice now. One was the heavyweight, and the other one is the Coolin Curve. So 2 events, big events in my life, and both of them came with products attached to them. So don't know if that's God or what, but I have to assume it is. So, but yeah, I was in a lot of trouble, had heart disease, and just had heart surgery, and 3 shoulder surgeries from some hospice tours that I was helping my in-laws, and they kept falling. I kept catching and kept blowing up shoulders, and got stung on pain pills, and got my blood pressure way jacked up. And then Emma was born with a knot on her chest, and that was just a moment that I just had to really check myself in and get myself taken care of. And that was a whirlwind. That's where it all happened. I checked myself into rehab, and 10 days, all sorts of things happened to me besides getting better or learning how to cope with my addictions and stuff. But the people that I met, Lawrence Mayer, who was a kid that got the sailing all started for me, Evan at Sail Time, which is a more feasible way to do boats, but and then the Coolin Curve. I invented the Coolin Curve all within 10 days. So of Emma being diagnosed with cancer. But what the mission was to take cancer kids sailing in Galveston Bay free of charge, and the wine bucket was going to pay for it. And when I came up with all that, I knew it was possible. We started putting things together. Within 3 weeks of rehab, I had a sailboat that we were sailing on. And within 6 months out of rehab, we had 2,500 finished product Coolin Curves in our garage, and started selling them. And we had probably already taken, 10 people sailing with our program. And now I just went through all the pictures. Dorothy asked me to come up with pictures for y'all, and I had to go through 10,000 pictures from my sailing, and I got down to 2,300. Now I'm down to 600, and these pictures are magical. I mean, they're just amazing photos. So, again, it's the whole thing that happened. It all came from, I don't say tragedy because it's life. I don't know. Some things hurt, some things don't. But Emma was by no means a tragedy. She's been nothing but joy. It's been nothing but magic, and the things that we've accomplished, the things that we're going to accomplish as you see Emma grow, and we sell more wine buckets, and we help people with sailing all around the country. We do it here in Houston, but there's no reason we don't do it wherever there's a sail time. In fact, when we were at this event with you, when we were auctioning the boat.
The shrimp boil.
Yeah, the shrimp boil, yeah. And I've always known that I'm not doing this. There's people out there that will help with boats. So we did sailboat. We raised, I think, $400 for the cost. But then at the end, someone chimed in and said that he would offer his fishing boat to take people fishing. And they raised another $1,200 just from that last-minute addition. The guy said, hey, well, I can take people fishing on my boat. And that proved my point that we just kind of got ourselves off track a little bit. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants the same thing. And so that's my message is we can invent anything we want. We can be what we want, and we can do whatever we want. And so you just have to believe that and blood, and we'll find our way.
What you're talking about sort of reminds me of an Adam Smith quote, and I forget the book, but it's everybody wants to love and be lovely, and not be lovely from a cosmetic standpoint, but to be lovable everybody wants to be loved.
I believe that. I mean, I just want to live in goosebumps. I'm telling you, I love goosebumps.
Yeah.
So, you'll see me a lot look down at my arms because that's when we're doing it. It's when we're having goosebumps. And you get goosebumps when you give. And like I said, you see it on American Idol. I love American Idol just because that's where God shows up there all the time. And, like God and confidence and all that. So, goosebumps, helping. Yeah.
Something else we were talking about, and I haven't seen American Idol in a long time, and I come from Top 40 radio world where it was sort of our job to watch shows like that and talk about the underdog who would come up from their bedroom and singing into a bush, and now they're performing in front of millions and millions on worldwide television. And our conversation before then really got the wheels turning about, this is something that people really learn what they're capable of doing when they're just given a shot. Mm-hmm. When they have that right little nudge. It could be from a mom or a best friend that's like, hey, you know what, Mike, American Idol's going to be in town, and I know you like to sing, and you sing pretty good. I'm not going to BS you. You sing pretty good. You should give it a shot. And then Mike is like, you know what? You're right. And I'm going to go and stand in line. And maybe that was the nudge that it took. And that little nudge made you go stand in line. And then you got in front of the judges, or I'm sure you had a whole bunch of different gatekeepers before you get to perform in front of the judges, but you get from one gatekeeper to the next, to the next, to the next, and now you're singing in front of the judges, and then you make it to Hollywood, and then from Hollywood you make it to whatever the next rounds are. I'm sure the process has changed since the last time I've seen it. But yeah, that's all you need sometimes. It's just a little nudge from the outside world. And you just have to believe the signs, believe that the nudges are good, or what necessary steps to take to accomplish something beyond what you could ever dream up.
Not watch a movie in your head. Watch the movie that's happening in front of you with these people helping you. And if you do that, you grow. If you just don't let your mind get in your way, because the whole time you're going to be saying, "Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." When in fact, people are saying, "Yes, you can. Yes, you can." And just watch the movie watch God's movie, and He'll let you do it. Because again, even singing, as hard as it is, it's just practice. Even quiet in your mind, all we have is time. Oh, I don't have time to quiet my mind. Your mind's inside your head. You have nothing but time to quiet.
That's all you have, actually.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, if someone doesn't like your product, you can't go remake your product, right? I mean, your product's your product. But if your product's singing or writing, all you got to do is go in that bedroom and sing, go in the shower, sing, go in the, write, do whatever. But the more you do it, the better you're going to get. The more better you get, the more confidence you're going to have. The more confidence you have, the more chances you're going to take. The more chances you're going to take, the more opportunity you're going to get. And, things are just going to happen. But the greatest logo of all time, I think, is just do it, because there is nothing truer than that. Just go do it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You still learned. So.
Yeah, and don't quit. And I've listened to enough entrepreneur podcasts to know that the only real failure in life is stopping. And can you imagine if you stop after only one or two no's or whatever, whether you're an inventor or if you're an entrepreneur that's starting your first business? May or may not be talking about myself, but, I go back to an author whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. But I talked to him last year, and maybe his name will come up in my memory after I tell the story. But he got rejected by 50-plus agents before somebody finally took a shot on him. And sometimes you're just one no away from changing your life. And in this context, we're talking about an aspiring author, but this could be someone who's selling for a corporation. It could be somebody who's doing sales for their own small business or whatever. And it's like, if you give up, you're absolutely doomed to failure.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely doesn't happen if you quit. I mean, there's no doubt about that. What is so funny, goes back to, I had the greatest parents on the entire planet. I mean, we all do, right? We say we do, believe we do, but my parents loved and helped me, but at the same time, they said some things that are very damaging to me, I thought. And one was, "You're a quitter." My dad used to ride me about being a quitter, because I quit playing guitar when I was 9 years old, and that same year I quit playing football, because football to me was ridiculous. It hurt. I was always little, so I was always hurt. But I just didn't quite understand football. Loved baseball, basketball, track, loved all that. But we had to play football, and football hurt. So, but I quit for up until my junior high days. But through elementary, I didn't play fun football, and so my dad called me a quitter. And it bothered me for many, many, many years. But 20 years into the heavyweight, my dad, they were all saying that 10 years I needed to quit, and I would not quit. And so I'm still doing it 27 years later.
You told me I was a quitter. You told me, and I'm doing what you didn't want me to do.
Isn't it funny how life works out? And that's why I say everything's planned, be it good or bad, because my dad wouldn't have said that, I would have quit. No doubt. I mean, the odds are against me in this scrub brush. I mean, they're just impossible, but we will win because, the floors in this country are filthy. So, but that's for another day. But yeah, but one day we will win that. And it's all because my dad called me a quitter, and I won't quit now. So, you cannot write this stuff is all I know. So, but yeah, and again, to me, it always seems like you're always going to quit right before you make it anyway, right? So you can't quit. It's darkest before the dawn, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, you just got to keep going, because I call it living life on a light switch. The key is to be ready when something happens. You can't be, with your head in the sand or anything like that. You have to be ready when the opportunity arises. And living life on a light switch is you're in a position that anybody that you meet could go, click, it's on, and you're ready to go. And again, and that's in a moment's notice. And, I've been doing this for my whole life, and I have manufacturing. We're ready to go. So one day we're going to meet that one person that's going to, flip our switch, and off we go, and we're going to make a huge difference and give people some quality tools at work, make a difference.
I want to go back to your struggle with addiction, because you've been very forthright in the interview that I saw beforehand, now you mentioning it now. So what would be your advice? A two-part question. Your advice for somebody who's battling an addiction of any kind, and then your advice for their family members.
For someone going through it, lighten up on yourself. I mean, I am so hard on myself. And, people come, and my parents used to yell at me, or brother's disappointed in you, or wife disappointed, kids disappointed. Well, believe me, I'm more disappointed in myself than y'all ever be. So, again, it really doesn't matter, right? Because I'm the hardest one on myself. So, and that goes back to quieting your mind. Just, we're not taught to quiet our mind. I never knew anything about it until I was in rehab, and my counselor told me to don't think about anything outside these fences. And when I started doing that started, I guess, shortening what I could think about, I guess. So, again, Emma was diagnosed with cancer on my 5th day there. And, again, everybody thought I was going to go off the deep end. Well, to me, it kind of helped me, because now someone I knew had a bigger issue than I did. So it's kind of get the focus off yourself, Mike, and let's go take care of Emma. And so, but she told me, don't think about anything outside the fence, including Emma. And I did that. So for my next 20 days while I was in-house, or 14 days, I guess it was, I wouldn't think if anything came up outside those fences, I'd stop it. And once I started doing that, I started realizing that I could manage what I was thinking about. And that, some things happened a couple years later, some books that I got. But once I learned that I can start quieting my mind and not obsessing on things, that really helped. And again, I said it earlier, go to the nose. And there's breathing things that you can do to where when you breathe in and out through your nose, you feel where that is. And once you focus on that, you're not thinking about anything else. And hell, just breathe. And then you're not thinking about the bills, the struggles, or anything. And at least it's some peace, you know? And so when I drive, I don't drive with the radio on anymore. I just drive to drive. When you're driving, you're in the now anyway, because you're driving, right? So you have to be in the present. But you can take it a little bit farther, and I'm telling you, I drive around this town now, and it's it's magical. I love driving without the radio on now, just because, I came up with this line the other day. Because when you're in the present, it's boring. And I guess that's why we always look at phones and things like that, is to keep our minds going, right? But when you quiet your mind and you get into the present, where God lives, where God plays, or I like to say, but when you're there, there's just a peace there. But let's say I go to work every day. I'm driving the same thing. It's always the same. But it's not. It's never the same. Nothing is ever the same. So you might be bored with the sameness, but in fact, if you really pay attention, there's nothing the same whatsoever about the day, the minute, the last time you went down that path. It's always changing. So stay the same. We're actually different. Kind of butchered that, but
I know. I thought it was lovely. No, that's great. And what would you tell family members?
That's a tough one too. And I've talked to a few. I've met through my cancer journeys that we've had, because addiction's everywhere, just like cancer. I mean, it's everywhere. Just that they're not doing it to hurt the family members. Again, I wasn't. I love my mom more than anything on this planet, and she seemed to be, and my wife, they seemed to be the biggest brunt of my dumb decisions or my addictions. And it wasn't meant to hurt them. I was too busy hurting myself and trying to self-sabotage or do whatever. So the last thing that was on my mind was hurting other people when I'm just kind of bent on hurting myself. So I would just say to the moms out there who are the greatest people on the planet is it's not about this. They're not doing it to you. They love you and they appreciate you and will do anything for you. But they're kind of grabbed right now and they're having a hard time. But it doesn't mean they're good or bad. It just means that they're going through something right now. They'll find their way. Let's hope.
The Coolin Curve. And this is the tool that we're using to help cancer kids. You've got Emma's Cruise for children, taking a cruise down through Galveston Bay. And it's something that you think about all the thousands of years of humanity, and nobody thought of this. Nobody thought of this.
Yeah, that's that God thing. Because again,
it really is.
Yeah, no, I was.
But thousands of years, Mike.
Yeah, no. And again, I was in my second week of rehab, and we just went and looked at boats. Lawrence and I did.
And Lawrence, I'm sorry, that's the kid you met in rehab.
Yeah, the kid who was a sailing instructor, a silver medalist in sailing, a Baylor graduate in theology. He is 20 years old, played baseball. And again, rehab's, it's an interesting place just because we're so in our heads when we get in. Lovely things happen there. Great people go through there. It's an amazing journey, but it's hard. I mean, it's very hard just because of all the preconceptions or whatever we have on it. But I went in there and I saw this kid, and he came over to me. Hey, you want to play cornhole? We were on break. I was like, get away from me. I don't want to deal with anybody in rehab. So that was my first day. The next day came in wearing a Baylor shirt, and the next day a sailing instructor shirt. And I started piecing together who this kid was, and we had an art class, and they said, what are you going to do when you get out of here? And I said, well, I'm going to get with that kid. We're going to take cancer kids sailing in Galveston Bay. And everybody thought we were crazy. But the next week, Lawrence and I went and looked at boats. Well, boats are $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. I'm in rehab.
They're not cheap, especially for you at the time. Yeah.
And I had only been sailing one other time with my oldest stepson's friend in San Diego. We're in a little tiny boat, and I was scared to death. Thought this kid was going to drown me. So it was a short sail, but I enjoyed it, but never really thought about it after that until Lawrence in rehab. Then we went and looked at sailboats. Like I said, super expensive. The next day, I went down to Galveston to see my dad. Again, I'm in rehab. So Dad he was glad that I went to rehab and got myself, fixed. I was working on myself, but they were still, what are you doing in rehab? So needless to say, when he asked me to go to lunch, I did not mention anything about this sailboat experience that I was going to piece together for him, because old Dave Martin would have killed me right there. So I just was minding my own business. I went there, but he does go. We go into Nate's down in Galveston. He bellies up to the bar where you put your kid in rehab, is at the bar, right? And so the bartender came and put a bucket down, put the bottle in it, and put ice on it. And I looked at it. I was like, well, that's not going to work. And my dad looked at me and goes, what's that? And I said, that wine bucket. He's like, who cares? I said, well, I think I'm about to invent something. And he had been with me with the heavyweight. So he was like, oh, God, here we go. He's already in rehab. He thinks he could solve the world. So but I said, no, wait a minute, Dad, watch this. And so the bartender took it over to the table, pulled the bottle out, opened it, poured it, and then I said, watch. And he tried to put it back in. He couldn't get it. As a girl, actually. He couldn't get it back in. And I was like, right there. And I got a pen and a paper, and I drew it. It took me 2 seconds. Dad kind of smiled and went back to eating, but right then is when I pieced it together that it was God, because here I am trying to figure out a way to come up with money to pay for a sailboat. Again, I'm not asking my dad. And here comes God, and he knows I invent things. That's what I do. And here comes God, puts a problem in front of me that I drew a solution to that was pretty dang good right then. I mean, I knew it right then that, wait a minute, he might have something. And so I did the numbers. Like, all right, well, what do we need? 20 million wine buckets? You make $4 a piece off a wine bucket? That's, $80 million. Well, I don't need $80 million. Hell, you give me 2, we're good.
That'd help a lot of people.
I know. So, but the way I looked at it is, you give me, make sure my wife gets taken care of, but the rest of the money, because the market's so big, and again, 20 million is nothing. You go around the world, we're talking 100 million buckets. I mean, how many wine buckets are out there?
If you look at how much the global economy is worth, like tens of trillions, this is chump change.
No, yeah. So, I mean, so again, I figured, well, I had, 20 million wine buckets, 30 million. Again, we can, because the product's so big, we could really make a difference. And then I started putting, well, wait a minute, it's all about celebration. So if we celebrate, if we hold our glass and we celebrate, and some of the money is going to help others in the struggle, wouldn't that be cool? Because again, when you're using a wine bucket, you're always celebrating, right? And so during your celebration, when your glasses are raised and your drink is cool or cold and you're celebrating, let's give thanks and know that some of your hard-earned dollars that you gave to us for our product is going to go out and make a difference. And now, I mean, it's been a struggle taking a product to market, and I made some, not mistakes, just got myself into some things that didn't quite pan out, but at the same time, positioned us where we are now for it to happen, I guess. So, but when we get going, it's not going to be just about selling. It's going to be about everything. I mean, what do they want to do? When I was working for Guy Furniture, we had a Hellcat, and I would take builders to the racetracks and run there. I mean, if someone has cancer, don't want to do sailing, we'll take them to the racetrack. Mm-hmm. They want to jump out of an airplane, I'll push them out of an airplane. I'm not going. So if they want to go skydiving, I guess it is. So, so everything that we invent from here on forward, this coffee mug, the T-shirts, the sayings, that's all going to go into our capitalism to cause. We're going to generate money to give to charities that make a difference.
Mike, I really appreciate you meeting up with me for this interview, because your story is one that's got to be shared with as many people as possible. It really drives home the point that anybody can do anything as long as you set your mind to it and you get out of your head and you execute. It's really easy to find yourself inside your head and doubting yourself and telling yourself that you can't do it and that you'll never get from point A to point B. Who are you? Who the hell do you think you are? You think you're getting from 0 to 1? You're not. Sit on the couch and watch Netflix and cuddle up with a bag of Cheetos and a 6-pack. Yeah. And it's really easy. It's really easy to do that. But I love your story, and I've been a fan ever since I met you. So really appreciate you meeting me here for this interview. And a shout out to Raul and William from Charlie Mike, the podcast, for loaning us this space. It's the Pearland Podcast Studio off of West Broadway. So you guys got to check them out too. Check out their podcast. And if you're looking for a space to record your very own show, look no further than the Pearland Podcast Studio and Mike's website, CoolinCurve.com. Coolin, not cooling, but CoolinCurve.com to find out what Mike's got brewing, what he's got coming up. My man, thank you for coming by the podcast.
You bet. I definitely appreciate it. And if I could say one last thing about, I've had every opportunity, I said this earlier, from my parents to where I went to school, just absolutely everything. And if I'm having the struggles that I had, I can't imagine someone that has real struggles. And so that's what I try to get out there, because we can do, even the people with the best situations have the same thing. We're all the same. We're all in our heads. Doesn't matter how good we're faking it. We're all in our heads. And so the key is to let everybody know that we can get out of our heads, all of us. But yeah, glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're not going to make it through the entire episode without me reminding you once again that if you enjoy this podcast, you can help me grow the show by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and by signing up for the newsletter. I can guarantee there will be free stuff involved at some point before the end of summer. So if you want to get in on some freebies, you can sign up at cruzthroughhtx.com.